Hi everyone! Usually on this channel I share grammar videos for my flipped classroom or classroom activities for ESL teachers. But right now I'm not a teacher, I'm a student. I have the opportunity to study Spanish in Spain for 2 months and try out some of the language learning advice that I give my students. Today I want to tell you about one of my biggest and most important language learning goals while I'm here in Spain, and that is speaking only Spanish in my language school. I have seen throughout my years teaching ESL that the students who speak the most in their target language are learning faster than the ones who speak their native language more often. I also remember when I was studying abroad in my early 20s that there was one woman in my program who decided she was not going to speak English the entire time we were there, and her Spanish improved way faster than the rest of us. So I've been doing my best to follow my own advice and to speak only Spanish at school. I've been trying to avoid English for everything except for maybe translating 1 or 2 words. So I was very excited when I got to my first class and I learned that there were no other native English speakers in my class. I thought, this will be so easy. We'll automatically speak Spanish all the time and it won't be a problem. But very quickly thereafter, I discovered that everyone else in the class was learning Spanish as a 3rd, 4th, or maybe 5th language, and all of them already spoke pretty good English. So during every break or before or after class, all of my classmates switched immediately into English. And I wasn't sure what to do. I knew I didn't want to speak English at school, but there's a social element. I wanted to talk to my classmates and enjoy my time there as well. So I started to think about how I could face this challenge. At first, I just listened to the conversations and didn't participate. I knew that I didn't want to speak English, but it didn't feel right to stop them from speaking English because they were practicing their 2nd or 3rd language. But not participating in the conversation felt weird too. So at one point I started to leave the classroom during those breaks in the class. I would go to a common area in the school where students from other classes were hanging out, so I could meet them and talk to them. That worked a little bit better, but it still wasn't ideal. So for now I've come up with 2 solutions. The first one is just to respond to the conversation that's happening in English, but to respond in Spanish. That way I'm not forcing my classmates to speak Spanish when they'd like to be practicing their English, but I'm still fulfilling my goal of not speaking English at school. So that's worked out pretty well so far. Most of the time the students continue to speak to me in English while I respond in Spanish, which can be a little bit awkward, but it fulfills our goals. But once in a while, my classmates will actually switch into Spanish when they realize that that's the language I'm going to be speaking. My second solution has been to seek out friendships with students from other classes. And in particular, it's worked well to find students who have similar goals to me and are older than most of my classmates. A lot of the friends that I've made outside of class, who are always willing to speak Spanish all the time, are in their 40s or 50s or older. They know that if they speak all the time, they're going to learn more than they would otherwise. In fact, I have one friend who's actually from the United States and her native language is English, but we only speak Spanish to each other because we're both really motivated to learn and to practice. So you don't always have to find a friend who is from a different country or from a different language background than you. You just have to find somebody who has the same commitment to speaking your target language. So there you go. I still highly recommend making it a goal to speak only your target language and not to speak your native language at your school. Of course, when you go home, when you talk to your family, it's important to maintain that connection to your native language. But when you're at school, it's time to practice your target language. So my big pieces of advice for you are just to respond in the target language and don't respond in your native language. It can be awkward at first, but I think most people understand. And the second piece of advice is to seek out friends outside of class, especially older friends who will always speak that target language with you. If you have any suggestions for other strategies I can use to maintain speaking only Spanish at school or some other advice for language learning. I'd love to see your comments, and I'll try them out and see how they help my language learning.